All right, we're now recording. Apologies, it took me a while. I had to log in as host, and it's been a while since I logged into Zoom. Okay, so we're recording, and are we missing anyone? Nope, Dimitri's on. Okay, this is recording for our DAG visualization walkthrough. We're ready, and after the meeting, I'll post the link to the recording in the agenda. Can everyone
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes, thanks for that. I have the first point. Basically, it's just start of this issue, this meeting. As a lot has happened in the last week, I thought it'd be smart for us to align on some things. I do say when reading through the issue myself, I had some things like, hey, I hope I'm understanding exactly what's being written here. I'm not fully sure. So I thought it'd be nice, like, hey, perhaps it's a good idea for Sarah and Frederick to give a little bit of an introduction on, what the current proposal is. And I created a lot of sub-threads for the different things I'd like to see, like, hey, what do you think about that? Or I had this in mind, etc. And then we go over each one of those and basically make some decisions here and there. Because I think some of these things might already be, perfectly all right. I just, there's some miscommunication or things I'm not understanding. So with that in mind, let me know if it sounds like a good idea.
It's a great idea, and it'll help me get up to speed since I've been out 2 weeks. Thank you, Dimitri.
Yeah, so I can just jump in and do like the short version of this, and then we can go through the issues. I realize I didn't answer some of them, and some of them it's just because it's like, we can figure it out as we go along, and also I knew we were going to talk. So the short version is we are looking for a way to create the closest thing we can to the proposed design layout, which is a tidy tree, using the layouts that D3 already has, because there isn't a tidy tree layout. And basically the advantage of D3 is you can give it your data shape, and it will give you all of the layout points that are necessary to create the graph. It is our hope that we can eventually sort of massage the default points that come out of the Sankey diagram, which is the closest to what we want, to continue moving closer to that design process. But we thought that step one, the good idea would be to go ahead and do a Sankey diagram, even though it's imperfect, to get it in front of users, because we also have, there's like this space between what we think people are going to want this for and knowing what people are going to want it for, and also knowing like how complex the various GitLab YAML configuration files are, right? And it's like, we can sort of answer that by like trying to dig up things, but really if we put it in the product and then see what happens, we can do that and start answering our own questions. And so what this issue has in it, and here, let me just share my screen really fast, everyone. That is my I'm thinking about stuff song, sorry.
A quick question, and probably Fred may know, when you and Peyton were going through the exploration on this design, did we confirm what data is returned from the backend? Is what?
Yeah, we did confirm what was the current API response, and we also went through. Well, basically, what I did is that while we were exploring, I went and trying to get the complex DAG data so that we could test it out. And I looked at the response shape that we're receiving from the backend, and also the entire GitLab CI/YAML that we have, and I reproduced that data because we don't have right now an endpoint that gives us the DAG data. So it is technically what we would receive, but it's not exactly an API response, so it's not connected to anything.
Okay. All right.
And Fabio is working on that. Part of what Fred and I did this week was met with Fabio to look at, we had a couple of assumptions about the data shape that were a little bit incorrect. And so we talked to Fabio about that. And actually this morning, I just finished doing an exploration about the differences between what that endpoint can do and what we were expecting, to make sure that it wasn't going to have like huge performance implications. It doesn't, it works. There's a link to that in the issue. I don't think I put it in the DAG channel if anybody wants to see it, but it's kind of just like whatever data mushing stuff. So I don't know how interesting it is, but there's a comparison of the diffs between the two.
Okay. And so what you're saying, Sarah and Fred, is that what we have right now from the API endpoint, we can move forward with the MVC.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So now I forgot why I pulled this out for you guys, but essentially we have a Sankey that looks a little bit like this, and we can just run through the comments. But the MVC we proposed is essentially the Sankey graph layout. Right now, the nodes are just going to display the job name. Our goal is eventually, right, it might show status, it might show all sorts of other stuff. We don't know, but in this MVC, that's what it's going to show. In the picture that I have, the node color is determined by the stage, et cetera. All of the like parts of that MVC are there, and I don't need to read them online for everyone. But I'm happy to run through the questions that you added, Dimitri, since we have like 15 minutes left, unless anybody has a more specific question real fast.
Let's go through Dimitri's first. Thank you.
All right. So more comments. Where do we have the questions? That was Fred, Ken. I'm looking for your ones, Dimitri. Sorry, we're all watching my screen now.
By the way, Fred.
Here we go.
Peyton, Fred, and Sarah, what you have here already from the output of the work you've done to date is really helpful. Thank you very much. For
Sure.
As far as the proposed design and the way it's described here. Thank you.
So the first thing, Dimitri, is the colors, right? And in the proposal we have using the GitLab DataViz colors is outlined in pajamas. I know Jeremy did a bunch of work around those, and one of the big pros of these colors is that he color proofed them and stuff. So the question is, and it's like, I think that even if we do it by job name, it's like a total of, what is it? It's like 55 different variables if we cycle through the different variations of them, Dimitri.
Yeah, let me see. The main thing I wanted to clarify there is, let me see, as meaning color usage. That was one of the big topics I saw when rewatching the recording. And I think with that in mind, you know, like, the original proposal and then the eventual current iteration we're at in terms of like the experiment you've got on, I think there might be some changes in what is the assumption or goal with the usage of color. And with that in mind, like I thought I read in the description that colors are based on stages. And I just wanted to clarify in the original mockup, the only idea with the colors is to clarify or make it clear which jobs are connected to other jobs. There's no other meaning derived from colors than that. It's just like, all right, you know, this is a green line. That means that these two jobs are connected, and it's easily distinguishable from any lines that might be close towards that line. So there's no line that is going to be also green colored close to a green colored line, basically, or ideally seen. And I was wondering, with that in mind, you know, hey, if we look at the current iteration, we can see that, you know, colors are derived by stage. It's like, hey, I was wondering where that comes from. Like, was that easy to do, or what was the thought behind that process?
Yeah, so it's because it's easy to do. Basically, we can do it with jobs or anything. So if I know not everybody's like a big code head, but if you can see this code here, right, we have this scale of colors. And then the way D3 works, you pass what you want it to match into that scale of colors, and then D3 will iterate through all of them for you as the lines come through. So if we wanted to do it based on job, we can do that, and we can write the scale iteration such that it's going between like the darker and lighter versions of the color schemes, so that you're not getting like two really blue ones next to each other, right? Like if we go from like the lightest end of one color and the darkest end of the other color and interleave them, we can totally do that. That's like super flexible. And then likewise here, you can see I just put the labels in there, but one of the next steps for making it production ready is generating the scale based on what it is, because it has to be dynamic.
Sarah, did you say of the 5 color palettes, if we totaled up all the hues, there's 53?
I think it's 55. It's in this design system thing that
I'm looking at that. Okay, but in that case, we would run out of unique ones if we did it by jobs, potentially. How would we handle that?
It would start cycling around again. I mean, that's how the default is. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Dimitri.
No worries. So I know how the script I used did it, and I thought it was pretty convenient, is that it loops through the colors per stage, which kind of makes it so that a color in like a connection between stage 1 and stage 2 is reusable between a connection between stage 2 and stage 3. And that way we don't have to have, millions of unique colors. It's just like we have, I don't know, a couple of 10, 15, and just loop through them consistently. And that will, at least get the majority of the colors being easily distinguishable from each other, because that's the eventual only end goal I had originally.
I think one point on that, and I think it's a valid concern. What I wouldn't want to happen is for us to think we can have a solution where it will always be clear and that no color will be reused, because we don't know how big a DAG graph can be. And so if you have if you have 50 lines, you need 50 completely different colors. I mean, there are ways to generate just random color and say, do some kind of weight system and say, oh, I've generated a kind of a yellowish color, now I want a bluish color, and then move that like that. But I think there's value in just assuming that it's going to be a number of set color that are reused, and we just try to make so that that set in itself is not similar. If you have 15 colors and they're all different, we're going to have a good sample of line that don't overlap or that overlap with different colors. But at some point, the way the sync queue works is that you might have a line that's way below, on the 30th line, and the first one will cross over it, and they might have a similar color. That's very hard to make sure that never happens.
Yeah,
right.
With that in mind, I would. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, so part of the thing with the color choice, I did it by stage because it was there and I was interested to see how it looked mostly. I think one of the advantages of having the colored nodes as opposed to the white nodes is I think it helps make it clear where those lines are going. But also I want to say this whole color discussion is something that can definitely, iterating on this isn't something that's a huge lifting, it's not a huge effort to iterate on what color we put inside the things. And so in this case, right, we have the, this is using the gradient to show where it's going so that you can sort of see right from first glance that this one is going from a blue to a pink and this one is going from a green to a blue. So you have some sense, and then you can highlight to actually see the line because they are going to cross. And so that's why you get that.
Yeah, I think that is where it begins to show, right? The difference between the Sankey layout and the original layout intended, where this crosses over each other. While the other one has a waterfall model to it, though in some ways they're super similar. I think as well, let me see, I think I mentioned in my color one as well. Let me see, first off, I'm fine with having a limited amount of color sets. I would argue for bright colors rather than soft colors because they will be more easily distinguishable from each other. But the other one I was thinking about is, if possible, I'd suggest solid colors might work the best as they remove complexity from the graph. I said this in mind with hey, we need to see how this works with the current graph layout, as said before, indeed, because the scenario is slightly different. If it is indeed easy to do, I would love to see some examples next to each other of this, and we can visually distinguish and say, all right, this is going to work better than the other, especially if it's easy to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the colors, being able to look at all of them, which is basically my plan for next week, is the right answer. Because otherwise it's all very to me, I'm I like gradients because I can see how they're connected. But yeah, who knows? We should just do it and see what it looks like.
Awesome. Then let's go on to the next one. Display nodes. I saw. Let me see. The nodes will display only the job name. Oh yeah, this is an important one. Prior scope included showing a status for each job aside from the job name. Is this still possible? And based on what was it decided to only show a job name?
Just on what we can do in 13.0. I expect it to change. I just want to get one graph out in this milestone, and it's just a small step of making it easier.
And
Yeah, so
also, just to
so
add on that, I think an important point that we had in the discussion yesterday also with Fabio is that we at first in the graph, we didn't take into account parallel jobs, and that complexified the status as well. And because there is exploration to do relating to parallel job, meaning if you have a need, it can be a need on a job name, but it can also be a need on a group name. And that changes how we relay that information. And so having statuses just add another level of complexity that we don't want to have in the first iteration.
Right, and that's another good point that came up that I was waiting till we got to the node part, but the nodes are actually going to show the group name, not the job name, if it's a group with parallel jobs, which is currently how the pipeline graph looks anyway. You can click on it to see the two parallel jobs. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dimitri, or do you want me to pull up the picture?
a little bit.
Okay, I can pull up a picture. It's not a big deal. So that's the other part that we've been working on. I did it in a merge request, right? No, Fabio, you had it in an issue here. I'm sorry, Zoom keeps trying to put everybody's pictures over me, which is really fun.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
My gosh, I can't find issues. It exists somewhere that we have this really cool issue that shows how the graphs are, oh, chat, hero.
Thanks, Fabio.
There we go. So right now in the pipeline view, if there's a group job, you can see it's like this. And if you click on it, you can see 1 and 2. So right now in the graph, the way it's going to work is that we're just going to show this just part as a single point. And if some point in the future, we want to show the breakdown, if that even becomes useful for the DAG view, then, you know, the data exists. So
That makes sense. Yeah, that seems all right.
Quick question, Sarah, but it's not in this MVC, right?
Not to show the two subsets, no. We will show that there are, that we will just show the just part, like this part.
Gotcha.
Here.
Okay.
And what happens if a single sub job is depended on by like another DAG job?
The way that that works.
At the moment, it's not possible. So it's not possible that a job depends on, let's say, just one of two. It can only depend on all of them, right? On the whole group.
That's right, because they're all instances of the same job, really. So there's no way to apply different configuration to each of the sub.
So
okay,
even the specific need will be mapped to the group name.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good to see. So we don't have a difference there. Let me see. What was the other thing? Yeah, the losange shapes. I mean, let's see what we do there. I like the explanation you gave there, Sarah, on like the different colors helping out to differentiate. Yeah, let's see how the differences make sense, and then we can go from there. But it seems like a good idea. Then connecting nodes. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it makes. I know that this was a big change. Partly it's because it's one of the places where the tangled tree is better than the Sankey to show all of the nodes. Hold on, I might be able to show the example of what it looks like if we don't filter them. Sorry to make you all watch this, but basically the question is, do we show, if a job depends on job 1 and job 2, do we show both of those links? And I'm advocating for, in this version, not doing so, just because I think it makes it a lot more complex to look at the graph. So this is the graph if we show all of those now, and we can see, right, that like job 4 depends on job 1 and job 2, but job 2 also depends on job 1. So we don't have to show in this particular layout both of those things, because you can infer that they're both going to wait on job 1. I agree with Dimitri that there's like extra information when we have a graph where we can show both of those things, that you can actually see how many things are also still depending on job 1. my proposal for the MVC is that we don't show those, and as we work through the Sankey to see if we can get closer to that like tangled tree or whatever the tree where the lines aren't crossing, then it would probably make sense to add them back in, or if people seem to be confused.
So for my understanding, because this is was one of the things I found hardest to understand, so in this job, when is something depending on something where the line is dejuped? Because that's how you say it, right?
Yeah, so an example of that is job 4 up here. So this is now showing all of the lines instead of filtering them, instead of deduping them. And so you can see that job 4 has this line straight from 1 to 4, and also this line from 2 to 4. But 2 also has a line to 1. So really, essentially what we're drawing is just this line as a through line, like 1 to 2 and then 2 to 4.
Okay, makes sense. I just wonder if it's not going to be easily confused with lines that where a job only depends on the job and then the other job, like it's not one, like what if job 5 does not depend on job 1, but there's a straight line going from job 5 to job 2 to job 1? Like if job 2 is connected to job 5, how can I be sure that job 5 does not also depend on job 1?
Well, it does though, right? I mean, if it depends on job 2, yeah, it does. Because if it depends on job 2 and job 2 depends on job 1, then that's a correct inference that it depends on job 1. As the current setup is.
I think that's a difference. I think, well, like Sarah said, like in the other graph, it might have been clearer, but because we're talking about two things. The first one is, as a user, I want to see my DAG graph as what job depends on which, and just like I have just all the relationship. And that means if my job depends only on 4, I see a line to 4. And if it depends on 1 and 4, then I see 2 lines. But what we're saying is, for this iteration, it might also make sense to just say, well, if what you want to see is how your DAG flows, like how it proceeds, then if your job depends on job 2 and job 2 depends on job 1, then your job will not run until 1 has finished and 2 has finished, because 2 needs 1 to finish, right? So that's why there's a difference there. There's one gives the information on the user on the flow, and the other one gives it on just the relationship of the needs and the DAGs.
So am I correct in that we are like, the original proposal meant for each stage, I'm going to say stage, but let's call it column. Each column, it represents not the stage, but the execution generation, as I called it in the original exploration. This still aligns with that, right?
Yeah, so you can see, right, that like these are colored by stage, but job 11 is on the left because it doesn't depend on anything else.
All right, now it makes sense. All right, I was not getting that. I was like confusing stages with columns. No, this makes a lot of sense, to be honest. All right. All right, very nice.
Well, I mean, if our designer is confused by it, maybe it means we need to to make it clearer.
I mean, like I would argue as well that I come from like a biased background with something in my mind already, instead of starting from fresh canvas. But yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I'd say let's see it how it turns out. And I don't know what do you think? Like I'm fine with having this as a first iteration, to be honest, especially if it makes it feasible to at least have the first iteration out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow and make notes of all the things that we're taking out so I can create separate issues that will not be in this first iteration. I'm fine with it. Just to, since I'm probably the freshest eyes looking at this, what I'm looking at now that Sarah is showing is telling me that job 11 is dependent on job 3, which is dependent on job 6. Is that what is illustrated?
It's just dependent on job 6.
Oh.
Or job 6 depends on job 11, to be accurate. Like nothing, job 11 depends on nothing. Job 6 does. It crosses number 3 because that's just sort of the way Sankeys work. It is That is that's the biggest con of this layout. And our goal is to ultimately be able to like solve that. It's just going to take longer, and getting something in front of people is probably
Okay.
better.
Okay, so the way I would read it is looking at the right, saying for that particular job, it depends on something that is showing it's linked to the left. Okay.
There might be, and this is probably for later, Sarah, but I think one thing that could help is when we mouse over the line, we could fade out all of the stage, like the other nodes that are not related. So like you mouse over and then the DAG job tree node just goes transparent. So you know it doesn't go through there, but all those that does are not transparent. That would help quite a lot.
So yeah, so Fred, if it did that, I would know to ignore job 3. Yes. Yeah.
That's doable. That's doable within this one. Yeah, for sure. And also, Tao, if you have questions too about what we're taking out that we want to follow up, I have a pretty good sense of it. So you should feel free to like text me too, and we can go back over it.
Awesome.
I know we're over time. I'm okay for continuing to go through stuff if other people are okay.
I have another half hour, but how does everyone feel?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. And we will continue recording if anyone has to drop. And then, okay.
For documentation sake, can we quickly repeat on what was just decided? Like I thought it was just a decision made. I would just want to write it up in the document.
Okay, I think the decision that we've made, if I'm correct, is that we're going to go ahead and do the deduped versions now, and then iterate through adding more lines. But we can also, you know, double check that when we have more endpoints and we can look at more stuff, because the function written to dedupe it is written now. So if we want it, we can do it. And if we don't want it, we can take that function out. And now flipping between those two things isn't a big deal. But I would like us to, but if you're okay with that, I'd like to start with a deduped version.
Yeah, let's see what makes sense, especially with the larger data sets. I think that is the one that I'm most interested about since the beginning, because that was kind of the hard thing with this whole endeavor. Like just creating that by hand is like, no. But I'm really interested to see how that's going to pan out with, for example, GitLab's pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm interested to see how easy it's going to be to make that graph once we start with the Sankey, because the layout does give us a lot of information. So I have medium high hopes that we'll be able to, in the next, you know, milestone, figure out a way to lay them out a little more clearly. And then we were talking as well about the line shape. So right now, so in the picture, as we can see, this has like this nice arc that is like a straight line and then an arc and then a straight line. And in the current version that we're looking at, it's a little more choppy, where it's still round because it has the line join, but it's basically a straight line with a curved join on it instead of a line and arc in a line. That's another thing that I think is just like a follow-up issue. Like I have zero problems adding arcs to stuff. It just might not be in this first pass.
So beautifying the graph with that in mind, you say like, hey, let's scope that off to a second iteration.
And we can go through. Okay, cool. Sorry, I interrupted again.
No,
and we can go through async and rank the follow-up issues, right? Like if having arcs is more important than, you know, pushing the nodes apart so that we don't have to dedupe things, like we can figure out as we move along what order we want to do them in. I'm sort of happy to do them in whatever.
Yeah, I would also say like, hey, this new graph has new functionality the original graph didn't have, with like, you know, hovering over lines and having some kind of like a click area to hover around over, which kind of changes things. So we can perhaps, I don't know, like in a future iteration, create like ghost hover zones with the line being really thin, and that way cleaning up the graph a little bit visually. But yeah, I would be, I would say it's non-vital per se, unless it creates confusion for some reason. But let's see that in the big data set visualization, as far as I'm concerned.
And then we have the interactions discussion. So to differentiate, one of the questions was a job and a link. And basically for graphs, right, a job is what I'm calling the node. So it is just one of the squares, and the link is the line between them. Part of that's just an artifact of how they're drawn, that you like specify the nodes and the link separately, and then they get drawn together. So that was the first question. And then the second question. Oh yeah, so I've shown you the hover where we're highlighting the link. And so that link is highlighted and the others are faded, which is to say it's highlighting just one step, right? The goal for being able to ship this is to be able to click on like this link 10 and highlight not only this line, but then the line between 2 and 1, so that if you click on job 10, you can see that like how it traces all the way back.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I am moderately confident that we can do that in this iteration. Moderate to high. I think we should be able to do it. I just want to get the other like dynamic parts done.
And highlight connection lines, backtracking generations. Yeah, that seems amazing. Keep us up to date if you're able to do it, yes or no. Otherwise, just a single generation would also already be very helpful. But you know, the thing I'm already expecting, which your solution will solve, is the navigation tunneling, where you're trying to follow the line to not lose track of it, going to the previous in order to see the previous. You know, like that stuff is very bad UX. So if we're able to resolve that, that is amazing.
Well, and there's a really neat thing I've seen other graphs do too that I think we might possibly be able to do, where as you go through a section and you like highlight or click on different links, it can like give you the trail up at the top of the screen, right? So that like conceptually, if you had a really long thing, you could be like, oh, job 1 to job 2, job 2 to job 4, and we could like write that up at the top of the screen. So you're not even following the trail, because once we have access to the data, we can put it in lots of places, right? So like that might be a really cool thing.
And also, just a side note, having that list or that level at the top, it would be very great for accessibility, because graphs are sometimes complicated, and if you can like tab through a list and that highlights all of your link, that's super useful for users.
Are we contemplating that for the initial MVC?
No, not for the initial one, but okay. It's something that's like in my mind as a thing we might want to do. I'm trying to see if I have an example to show everyone before we're all done. Okay. Oh no, this is just the regular one. Anyway, there is a version where you can basically click through and save the path. That would be
very
cool.
Nice.
And let's see. Yep, and that was it. And then we talked about the scope, and I think we sort of covered that. Tried to add in things that were easy to do in this scope and take out things that were hard to do in this scope, so that we can like.
All right, I really appreciate the hard work that is gone into it. Also, when I watched the recording, I saw the prototype you worked on, Frederick. It was really cool to see, you know, the things kind of coming together, and then suddenly, you know, we went over to this. Also, you know, super great to see that progress. I was really. It was actually in the back of my mind when I was out of office, like, oh, let's hope it's going well. But so happy to see it does. So thank you for that.
Hey, Sarah. Before we end, I have one question, and it may be just my ignorance of a UI convention. The connecting lines that you have, you know how it transitions from the color of a node towards the color of the between the two nodes, it changes. Is that meant to communicate something to the user, or?
Well, just to the destination node. Yes, the gradient is to say that like you can tell this line is going from like a green node to a pink node, just to make them a little easier to follow. But
okay.
It's possible to color them by the originator or the destination. It's
okay. Okay. When I looked at it, you know, not really. When I just first looked at the picture, I was like, "Oh, so job 1 becomes like job 3." But that's not what we're saying. We're just connecting them. Okay. Okay.
I thought maybe I could add like a little note because I think because Tao and Dimitri were away and like the graph changed so much. Just as an information, what happened is that the original graph, even though it was moving along and like I could reproduce, like me and Peyton could reproduce some lines and some graph and like have that level of going on. It wasn't, it would have taken too long to have something working for trading.0 and handle any cases. And the difference with the Syncy approach that Sarah proposed is that you can just give it data and you know the nodes will connect and it will scale correctly versus end-main graph where, you know, like there are always going to be cases that we didn't anticipate. And it became even more complex when we tried to have like curve line or cross stages lines. And even though it was kind of moving slowly along, it would have taken way too much time. And I think it's a better approach to move from, like to start with this approach that will just work and then tweak it until we have something that we like.
Gotcha. I'm really glad you came to that conclusion. I mean, as far as realizing it'll save you time. Thank you.
All right, Dimitri ran away. I guess that means we're all done and we should just leave before he comes back, right?
If I have more questions, Sarah and Fred, I'll put it in the issue. But the walkthrough was awesome. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, no problem. And also, you know, we also have the Slack channel. So if it's the kind of thing that doesn't need to be memorialized, but you just want like a quick check on something, you can always put it in the DAG channel, because between me, Fred, and Fabio, I'm pretty sure there's always someone around who knows the answer to that question now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We almost ran away before you came back, Dimitri.
I was still listening. I got my earphones in. So I was like, I can't say.
You're muted. I guess if we have nothing else, we can conclude. Okay. As soon as the recording is ready, I'll attach it. I'll add it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you,
folks.
everyone.
Have a great rest of your day.